There is a moment that no one sees coming, not even you, when something inside clicks and the game changes forever. It happens in the silence of your room, in the middle of the night, when the tears dry up and a strange calm takes over, as if your nervous system finally understood that crying will not bring back what you lost, and begging will not change who they are. This is not a decision you make with words or grand declarations. It is something that shifts deep in your brain, a rewiring that happens when pain reaches a threshold so unbearable that your mind activates survival mode. You stop waiting for them to see your value. You stop performing for an audience that never clapped, and you start building something in the shadows, something they know nothing about. The transformation begins in secrecy because you have learned the hard way that announcing your plans invites sabotage, mockery, or worse, the fake support that drains your energy while adding nothing real. You become selective with your words, quieter in your movements, more intentional with your time, and people mistake this for coldness when in reality it is focus sharpened by betrayal. Your inner strength is no longer something you beg others to recognize. It becomes a private resource you cultivate in isolation, like a blade being sharpened in the dark, waiting for the right moment to cut through illusions. This is where the monster stops being a metaphor and starts being a methodology, a disciplined approach to becoming someone unrecognizable to those who thought they knew you. You carry this metamorphosis alone, and that loneliness is not romantic or poetic. It is heavy, isolating, and sometimes suffocating, because part of you still craves validation, still wants someone to notice the effort, the sacrifice, the nights you spent rebuilding yourself from fragments. But no one is watching, and maybe that is the point. True power is not performed for an audience. It is forged in solitude, where the only witness is the version of you that refuses to stay broken. The brain adapts to this new reality by creating new neural pathways, ones that associate independence with safety instead of connection with safety. And this shift is what separates those who evolve from those who stay stuck in cycles of dependency. You start to see clearly that the people who abandoned you were never meant to be part of this chapter, and their absence is not a loss but a clearing of space for something greater. Have you ever noticed how the most profound changes happen without fanfare, without witnesses, without Instagram posts or motivational captions? That is because real transformation does not need an audience. It needs commitment, resistance, and the willingness to break patterns that have kept you small for years. While they are busy living their shallow routines, you are in the trenches doing the unglamorous work, waking up early, learning new skills, confronting the parts of yourself you have avoided, dismantling limiting beliefs one uncomfortable truth at a time. This is not a movie montage. This is the slow, painful process of shedding an old identity and stepping into a new one. And most people will never have the courage to do it, because it requires you to let go of who you were, including the person others expected you to be. The hidden truth is that this phase is the most dangerous, not because of external threats, but because of internal doubt. The voice that whispers, "What if you fail? What if this is all for nothing? What if you are not strong enough?" That voice is not your enemy. It is your brain trying to protect you from the fear of the unknown, trying to pull you back to familiar suffering because at least that suffering is predictable. But every time you push through that fear, every time you choose growth over comfort, you are rewiring your brain to tolerate discomfort, to see challenges as opportunities instead of threats. And that rewiring is what makes you dangerous to anyone who benefits from your weakness. You are not just changing habits, you are changing your identity. And that kind of shift terrifies people who are still stuck in theirs. This is the part where you realize that your pain will become strength. Not because pain is noble, but because you chose to extract lessons from it instead of drowning in it. You stop romanticizing your trauma and start weaponizing your experience, turning every scar into data, every failure into feedback, every betrayal into evidence that you needed to evolve. The awakening here is brutal. You see that no one is coming to save you. No one is going to hand you the life you want. And waiting for permission or validation is a trap that keeps you powerless. So you stop asking and start taking, not from others, but from yourself. Demanding more discipline, more focus, more authenticity, even when it feels uncomfortable or lonely. People around you might sense something is different. But they cannot name it yet because the changes are still internal, still gestating beneath the surface like a storm gathering strength before it breaks. You are not louder. You are quieter. You are not angrier. You are calmer. You are not more aggressive. You are more strategic. And that shift is what confuses them because they were expecting explosions when what they are getting is calculated distance. This is the phase where you stop seeking approval and start seeking alignment, where you cut off access to people who drain you, where you become ruthless with your time and energy, because you finally understand that every second spent on mediocrity is a second stolen from your potential. And the best part? They have no idea what you are building because you learned to move in silence, to let your results do the talking, to show who you are through actions instead of explanations. The monster is being built one decision at a time, one boundary set, one distraction eliminated, one uncomfortable conversation had, one early morning conquered, and none of this is visible to the outside world. They still see the old version of you, the one they dismissed, the one they took for granted, and that blindness is your advantage because by the time they realize what happened, it will be too late to catch up. You are not competing with them anymore. You are competing with the version of yourself from yesterday, pushing past limits you did not think you could break, discovering capacities you did not know you had, and this internal competition is what fuels the kind of growth that leaves others stunned. This is the silent metamorphosis, and it does not ask for applause. It demands freedom, and that freedom is earned in the shadows, away from judgment, away from doubt, away from anyone who would try to keep you small. You wake up to life in this phase, not because life suddenly got easier, but because you stopped expecting it to be easy and started expecting it to be worth it. The shift is not about positivity or motivation. It is about clarity, seeing things as they are instead of how you wish they were, and using that clarity to make decisions that serve your evolution instead of your comfort. You realize that you were not born to please anyone, not your family, not your friends, not society, and that realization is both terrifying and liberating because it means you are now responsible for your own happiness, your own success, your own meaning. No more excuses, no more waiting, no more blaming. Just you and the choices you make every single day, and those choices are either moving you closer to the person you want to become, or keeping you trapped in the person you used to be. This transformation is not a phase. It is a rebirth, and rebirths are messy, painful, and lonely. But they are also necessary if you want to become someone who cannot be controlled, manipulated, or diminished. You are learning that only the strong resist, not because they are born different, but because they made a choice to endure discomfort in exchange for growth, to trade temporary comfort for long-term power, to sacrifice who they were for who they could become. And as you sit in the quiet of this metamorphosis, you understand that the people who hurt you, who abandoned you, who underestimated you, did you the greatest favor of your life. They forced you to stop relying on them and start relying on yourself. That self-reliance is the foundation of everything that comes next, and they have no idea that they created the very thing they will soon fear. A version of you that does not need them, does not want them, and does not think about them at all. The brain is plastic, meaning it can be reshaped, rewired, and reprogrammed. And that is exactly what you are doing in this silent phase. Reprogramming every belief that kept you small, every habit that kept you stuck, every thought pattern that kept you seeking validation from people who never valued you. You are teaching yourself that discomfort is not danger, that loneliness is not weakness, that silence is not emptiness but space. Space to think, to plan, to build, to become. And in that space, the hidden truth reveals itself. You were never weak. You were just untrained. And now that you are training in the shadows, away from distractions and doubters, you are becoming something they will not recognize when you finally step into the light. This is the metamorphosis, and it does not happen once. It happens every time you choose growth over comfort, every time you choose yourself over their opinions, every time you choose to become the monster they never saw coming. Do you feel it yet? That shift happening beneath your skin? That quiet confidence replacing the desperate need for approval? That clarity replacing the confusion? That power replacing the helplessness? If you do, then you are already in the process, already transforming, already becoming someone who will look back at this moment and realize that this was the turning point, the moment everything changed, even though no one was watching. And if you do not feel it yet, then maybe this is the sign you have been waiting for, the permission you thought you needed, the push to stop waiting and start building. Because the metamorphosis does not wait for perfect conditions. It begins the moment you decide that staying the same is no longer an option. Comment if you recognize this phase in your own life, because naming it gives it power and owning it makes it real. They will never understand why you changed, because they were not there when you made the decision in the dark, when you chose yourself for the first time, when you stopped performing for their approval and started building for your freedom. And that is fine, because they will never fully understand you, and you do not need them to. All you need is to keep moving forward, keep building in silence, keep trusting the process even when it feels slow and invisible. The metamorphosis is not about them seeing it. It is about you living it. And that is the most powerful shift of all. When your validation comes from within, when your worth is no longer up for debate, when you become so grounded in who you are becoming that their opinions become background noise. This is where the monster begins to wake up, and the world is not ready for what happens next. There is a moment that no one sees coming, not even you, when something inside clicks and the game changes forever. It happens in the silence of your room, in the middle of the night, when the tears dry up and a strange calm takes over, as if your nervous system finally understood that crying will not bring back what you lost and begging will not change who they are. The transformation begins in secrecy because you have learned the hard way that announcing your plans invites sabotage, mockery, or worse, the fake support that drains your energy. You become selective with your words, quieter in your movements, more intentional with your time. And people mistake this for coldness when in reality it is focus sharpened by betrayal. You carry this metamorphosis alone, and that loneliness is not romantic or poetic. It is heavy, isolating, and sometimes suffocating, because part of you still craves validation. But no one is watching, and maybe that is the point. True power is not performed for an audience, it is forged in solitude where the only witness is you. Have you ever noticed how the most profound changes happen without fanfare, without witnesses, without Instagram posts or motivational captions that scream for attention and approval? That is because real transformation does not need an audience. It needs commitment, resistance, and the willingness to break patterns that have kept you small for years. The hidden truth is that this phase is the most dangerous, not because of external threats, but because of internal doubt. The voice that whispers, "What if you fail?" That voice is not your enemy. It is your brain trying to protect you from the fear of the unknown, trying to pull you back to familiar suffering. This is the part where you realize that your pain will become strength, not because pain is noble, but because you chose to extract lessons from it instead of drowning. You stop romanticizing your trauma and start weaponizing your experience, turning every scar into data, every failure into feedback, every betrayal into evidence that you needed to evolve. People around you might sense something is different, but they cannot name it yet because the changes are still internal, still gestating beneath the surface like a storm gathering strength. You are not louder, you are quieter. You are not angrier, you are calmer. You are not more aggressive, you are more strategic. And that shift confuses them. The monster is being built one decision at a time, one boundary set, one distraction eliminated, one uncomfortable conversation had, one early morning conquered. And none of this is visible. They still see the old version of you, the one they dismissed, the one they took for granted. And that blindness is your advantage because by the time they realize, it is too late. You wake up to life in this phase, not because life suddenly got easier, but because you stopped expecting it to be easy and started expecting it to be worth it. The shift is not about positivity or motivation. It is about clarity, seeing things as they are instead of how you wish they were, and using that clarity to make decisions. This transformation is not a phase, it is a rebirth, and rebirths are messy, painful, and lonely. But they are also necessary if you want to become someone who cannot be controlled. You are learning that only the strong resist, not because they are born different, but because they made a choice to endure discomfort in exchange for growth, to trade comfort for power. The brain is plastic, meaning it can be reshaped, rewired, and reprogrammed. And that is exactly what you are doing in this silent phase. Reprogramming every belief that kept you small. You are teaching yourself that discomfort is not danger, that loneliness is not weakness, that silence is not emptiness but space. Space to think, to plan, to build, to become. Do you feel it yet? That shift happening beneath your skin? That quiet confidence replacing the desperate need for approval? That clarity replacing the confusion? That power replacing the helplessness? If you do, then you are already in the process, already transforming, already becoming someone who will look back at this moment and realize that this was the turning point. They will never understand why you changed because they were not there when you made the decision in the dark, when you chose yourself for the first time, when you stopped performing for approval. And that is fine, because they will never fully understand you, and you do not need them to. All you need is to keep moving forward, keep building in silence, keep trusting. This is where the monster begins to wake up, and the world is not ready for what happens next. Your inner strength is no longer something you beg others to recognize. It becomes a private resource you cultivate in isolation. You incommode the system when you refuse to stay small, when you embrace authenticity, when you decide that freedom matters more than fitting in, and you were not born to please anyone. Your absence is not just emptiness, it is a presence they did not expect, a void that started to echo louder than your voice ever did when you were there. The conversations become hollow, the laughter sounds forced, the energy that once held everything together is gone, and they do not understand why everything feels different now. They thought your role was replaceable, that anyone could fill the space you occupied, but they are learning the hard way that some people leave marks that cannot be erased. You are not there to witness the decay, and that is the beauty of it. You are too busy rebuilding yourself to care about what is crumbling behind you. While they search for someone to blame, someone to fill the void, you are learning new skills, setting new boundaries, becoming a version of yourself they never got to see. The transformation continues in silence, and every day you spend away from their chaos is another day you grow stronger, sharper, more aligned with who you are meant to be. The hidden truth about absence is that it reveals value in ways presence never could. Because when you were there, they took you for granted, assuming you would always show up. Now that you are gone, they feel the weight of what they lost. Not because you were perfect, but because you were real. Because you brought something they cannot name but desperately miss. This realization does not come all at once. It creeps in slowly like a shadow that grows longer as the sun sets, until one day they look around and realize you are nowhere to be found. Have you ever disappeared from someone's life and watched from a distance as they tried to replace you, with superficial connections that never quite fit the same way? That is because authenticity cannot be replicated, and the energy you brought was unique to you, shaped by your experiences, your pain, your growth, and your presence. They try to move on. They try to convince themselves that nothing changed. But deep down, they know something is missing, and that something is you. Or rather, the version of you they never appreciated. The power in this phase is not about revenge or making them suffer. It is about understanding that your absence is the loudest statement you could ever make. You do not need to send messages. You do not need to post cryptic quotes. You do not need to prove anything, because the silence speaks volumes. And every day that passes without you is a reminder of what they chose to lose. This is where you start to wake up to life, realizing that your worth was never tied to their acknowledgement, and their discomfort is simply the consequence of their choices. They begin to feel the ripple effects of your absence in ways they did not anticipate. The person who always listened is gone. The one who always understood is missing. The energy that balanced the group has vanished. And now they are left with the uncomfortable truth that they played a role in pushing you away. That their neglect, their dismissiveness, their lack of appreciation created the distance. But you are not coming back. Not because you are cruel, but because you have learned that you were not born to please people who do not value you. This is the phase where the ghost of your absence begins to haunt them. Not in a supernatural sense, but in the psychological weight of knowing they let something valuable slip through their fingers. They see reminders of you everywhere. In conversations that lack depth, in moments that lack warmth, in situations where they wish you were there, but know you never will be again. The awakening for them is painful, and for you, it is liberating, because you are no longer tied to their emotional chaos or their inability to see your worth. Do you feel it? That lightness that comes from walking away from people who drained you. That clarity that comes from no longer seeking validation from sources that were never going to give it. This is the freedom they will never understand, because they are still trapped in cycles of superficiality, still searching for something to fill the void you left, still haunted by the ghost of what could have been. Meanwhile, you are building a life they know nothing about. A life where your inner strength is no longer a secret, but a foundation. The monster inside you is no longer something you fear. It is something you have trained, something you have shaped into a force that protects your peace and defends your boundaries. You incommode the system simply by refusing to return, by refusing to be the safety net they depended on, by refusing to lower your standards to fit back into a space that never truly valued you. Your absence is not a loss for you. It is a lesson for them, one they may never fully understand but will always feel. They will never fully understand you. And that is no longer a source of pain but a source of power, because you have stopped needing them to understand, stopped needing them to validate, stopped needing them to recognize. The ghost that haunts them is not you. It is the regret of what they failed to appreciate, the memory of what they took for granted, the realization that some people, once gone, are gone forever. And you? You are free, unburdened, and unstoppable. Only the strong resist the urge to go back, the temptation to check in, the desire to be seen by people who never truly saw you. You resist because you know that your pain will become strength, that every moment you spent feeling invisible was preparing you for this moment of clarity, where you finally see that their inability to value you was never a reflection of your worth. Comment if you have ever felt the power of your own absence, if you have ever walked away and realized that the best revenge is simply not caring anymore. Your resistance is silent but unshakable. Your courage is quiet but undeniable. And your growth is invisible to them but transformative for you. The ghost that haunts them is the echo of your absence, a reminder that some people are irreplaceable, and by the time they realize it, you are already too far gone, too evolved, too focused on your own path to ever look back. This is the power of the ghost, and it belongs to you. The truth hurts for them, but it heals for you, because you have learned that walking away is not weakness. It is wisdom, and your absence is not emptiness. It is evidence that you finally chose yourself. Stop seeking approval from ghosts of your past, and start building a future where your presence is valued, where your energy is respected, and where your worth is never questioned. This is where the transformation deepens, and the world starts to see what they missed. The first signs of your growth are subtle, almost invisible to the naked eye, but they are there, burning quietly like embers that will soon become a wildfire. Maybe it is a new skill you learned, a small achievement you posted, a change in your appearance, or a shift in the way you carry yourself that others begin to notice. It is not grand yet, not dramatic, but it is enough to plant a seed of curiosity in their minds, enough to make them wonder what you have been doing in the silence. They try to dismiss it at first, convincing themselves that it is nothing, that you are still the same person they left behind, the same person they underestimated. But deep down something stirs, a small voice that whispers, "What if?" A tiny crack in their certainty that they can no longer ignore. This is where the awakening begins for them, the moment they realize that your absence was not the end of your story, but the beginning of a new chapter they were not invited to read. You do not announce your transformation. You simply let it show through your actions, your results, your energy, and that quiet confidence that was never there before. The first spark is not about proving anything to them. It is about proving something to yourself, confirming that the work you have been doing in the shadows is real, tangible, measurable. Every small win fuels the fire inside you. Every milestone reminds you that you are on the right path. And every day that passes makes you stronger, sharper, more unstoppable. They begin to pay attention in ways they never did before, scrolling through your posts, asking mutual friends about you, trying to piece together what changed and when. The hidden truth is that their curiosity is not born from genuine care, but from insecurity, from the uncomfortable realization that they might have been wrong about you, that they might have discarded something valuable. This curiosity is the first stage of envy, the seed that will grow into something darker as your progress becomes undeniable. Have you ever noticed how people who ignored you suddenly become interested the moment you start thriving? The moment you stop needing them and start succeeding without them? That shift is not about love or concern. It is about ego, about the discomfort of seeing someone they dismissed rise without their approval or involvement. The first spark triggers this response because it forces them to confront the possibility that they were wrong. And admitting that would mean facing their own failures, their own stagnation, their own choices. You feel the shift too, not in what they say, but in how they act. The passive-aggressive comments, the subtle attempts to minimize your achievements, the questions designed to find flaws. They cannot celebrate your growth because it reminds them of their lack of growth. And instead of being inspired, they feel threatened, exposed, uncomfortable. This is where you learn that not everyone who asks about you wants you to win. Some are just checking to see if you are still beneath them. The power of the first spark is that it is undeniable proof that you are moving forward, that the transformation was not just talk, but action, and that the version of you they remember is gone. You stop seeking approval from people who are looking for reasons to doubt you, and you start focusing on the momentum you are building, the life you are creating, the person you are becoming. The spark is small, but it is real, and that reality is what scares them the most. Your pain will become strength in this phase because every doubt they planted in you becomes fuel. Every dismissal they handed you becomes motivation. Every rejection they gave you becomes proof that you were never meant to stay in that space. The first spark is not the climax. It is the signal that the fire is coming, and by the time they realize how big it has grown, it will be too late to stop it. This is where you start to see the fruits of your silent labor, and the world begins to notice what they tried to bury. Do you feel the power of that first achievement? That first sign that the work is paying off? That the silence was not emptiness but preparation? Comment if you have ever felt that moment when people who ignored you suddenly started paying attention, when the first spark of your growth made them uncomfortable. This is the moment when you realize that you incommode the system simply by existing outside of their expectations, by thriving in spite of their doubt, by becoming proof that their judgment was wrong. The first spark is not about revenge. It is about validation, not from them, but from yourself. Proof that you were right to walk away, right to invest in yourself, right to believe that you were capable of more. They will never fully understand you, and that is fine, because their understanding is no longer required for your success. The spark has been lit, and nothing they say or do can extinguish it, because it burns from within, fueled by your resistance, your courage, your refusal to stay small. Only the strong resist the urge to explain themselves, to justify their growth, to seek validation from people who never believed in them in the first place. You resist because you know that the first spark is just the beginning, and the real fire is yet to come. The transformation is no longer invisible. It is starting to show, and the world is beginning to take notice, whether they like it or not. This is where the monster starts to emerge from the shadows and the game changes forever. Wake up to life. The first spark is not the end goal. It is the signal that you are on the right path, that the work is paying off, that the freedom you fought for is real. You were not born to please anyone, and the fact that your growth makes them uncomfortable is not your problem. It is proof that you are doing something right. The first spark is the moment when everything shifts, when the invisible becomes visible, and when the world starts to see what you have been building all along. The authenticity you bring to this moment is what makes it powerful, because it is not manufactured or exaggerated. It is genuine, earned, and undeniable. The first spark is the moment when you realize that the truth hurts for them, but heals for you, because it confirms that walking away was the best decision you ever made. This is where the journey accelerates, where the momentum builds, and where the fire inside you begins to burn brighter than ever before. Your growth is no longer a rumor or a possibility. It is a reality they cannot ignore, and that reality stings deeper than any words you could have said. They see you thriving, evolving, becoming someone they did not think you could be. And instead of feeling happy for you, they feel something darker. Envy. The awakening of envy is not about them hating you. It is about them hating what you represent, which is proof that change is possible. You become a mirror that reflects everything they are not doing, everything they are afraid to attempt, and mirrors do not lie. Have you ever noticed how people who once ignored you suddenly become your biggest critics the moment you start succeeding? That shift is psychological warfare, a defense mechanism their ego uses to protect itself from the painful realization that they were wrong about you. They start to pick apart your progress, looking for flaws, questioning your methods, suggesting that you are doing too much or moving too fast. But their disapproval is not wisdom, it is fear. Fear that you will keep rising while they stay stuck. The power of this phase is realizing that their envy is not your burden to carry, it is theirs. You stop seeking approval from people who are hoping you fail, and you start surrounding yourself with those who celebrate your wins. Envy reveals itself in subtle ways. The backhanded compliments, the questions designed to make you doubt yourself, the sudden interest in your life after years of indifference. They want to know your secrets, not to learn from you, but to find reasons why your success does not count. Do you feel the shift in energy? The way people who once treated you as invisible now watch your every move, waiting for you to stumble? Comment if you have ever experienced the strange phenomenon of becoming a topic of conversation the moment you stop caring about being part of theirs. They will never fully understand you, and that is fine, because their understanding was never a prerequisite for your success. The envy they feel is the price they pay for underestimating you, for dismissing you, for assuming you would stay small forever. The transformation is undeniable now, and the envy it triggers in others is simply collateral damage, a natural consequence of choosing yourself over their comfort. You incommode the system by refusing to play the role they assigned you, by proving that you were not born to please anyone but yourself. Wake up to life. Envy is a compliment wrapped in hostility, a signal that you are doing something right, something that challenges the status quo. The truth hurts for them, but it liberates you, because it confirms that the distance you created was necessary. Authenticity is your weapon in this phase, because the more real you become, the more threatened they feel. You do not need to defend yourself. You do not need to explain your choices, because the results speak louder than their criticism ever could. Resistance is your strength, courage is your foundation, and power is your birthright. And the envy of others is simply noise, background static that fades the further you move. The transformation continues, the monster strengthens, and the world begins to see what they tried to hide, that you are always capable, always worthy. Your pain will become strength, and every attempt they make to diminish you only confirms that you are on the right path. Only the strong resist the temptation to shrink yourself to make others comfortable, to dim your light so theirs looks brighter. This is the awakening of envy, and it is not your burden. It is theirs, and you are free to rise while they remain trapped in their own limitations. The freedom you fought for is real, and their discomfort is simply the price of your growth. There is a moment that shatters everything they thought they knew about you, a moment when they realize that you are not coming back, that you do not need their validation, that you have moved on completely. This realization hits them like a cold wind on a winter night, sudden and unforgiving, stripping away the illusion that they still had some influence over you, some hold on your emotions, some place in your thoughts. The broken mirror is not about them seeing you differently. It is about them finally seeing themselves clearly, and that reflection is unbearable. Your indifference is the weapon they never saw coming, more devastating than anger, more final than resentment, more powerful than any confrontation could ever be. When you stop caring, when you stop checking in, when you stop reacting to their attempts to pull you back into their orbit, you send a message louder than words. You have become irrelevant in my story. This power is not cruel, it is protective. A boundary so strong that it does not need to be defended because it simply exists, immovable and absolute. The hidden truth they discover in this moment is that they were never as important to you as they thought. Or rather, they were important once, but that time has passed, and you have outgrown the version of yourself that needed them. They try to reach out with casual messages, with questions disguised as concern, with attempts to remind you of shared memories. But your responses, if they come at all, are polite, distant, devoid of the emotional investment they once took for granted. This coldness is not anger, it is indifference, and indifference is the final death of a relationship. Have you ever watched someone try desperately to regain your attention after they lost it, only to realize that their desperation is not about you, but about their own need to feel relevant? That is what they experience when the mirror breaks, when they see that you have moved on while they remain stuck, when they understand that your absence was not a phase, but a permanent departure. The transformation is complete now. You are no longer the person they remember, and they are no longer people you think about. Stop seeking approval becomes more than a mantra. It becomes your reality, a lived experience where their opinions, their judgments, their attempts to re-enter your life bounce off a wall of indifference you did not build out of hate, but out of self-preservation. You have learned that some people do not deserve access to you, that some bridges are better burned, that some chapters are meant to end without sequels. This is the freedom they will never know, the peace that comes from truly letting go. Do you feel the lightness of not caring what they think? The relief of not needing to explain yourself? The clarity of knowing that your worth is not tied to their perception? Comment if you have ever experienced the moment when someone who hurt you tried to come back and found only a closed door. Not because you were angry, but because you were free. This is the broken mirror, and it reflects a truth they cannot escape. They lost someone who would have stayed if they had been valued. They will never fully understand you, and now you do not need them to, because understanding requires connection, and connection requires access, and access is something you no longer grant to people who proved they did not deserve it. The broken mirror shows them a reflection they do not want to see, a version of themselves that took you for granted, that dismissed your worth, that assumed you would always be there waiting. But you are not waiting. You are living, thriving, building a life where they do not exist. Your inner strength is no longer something you question. It is something you embody, a quiet confidence that does not need to prove itself because it is real, earned, unshakable. You incommode the system by refusing to play the role of the person who comes back, who forgives easily, who gives endless second chances to people who never changed. The broken mirror is not revenge. It is consequence, the natural result of choices they made when they thought you would always be available. Wake up to life. The broken mirror is the moment when you realize that walking away was not weakness, but wisdom. That your indifference is not coldness, but clarity. That your peace is worth more than their presence ever was. You were not born to please people who do not see your value. And the moment you stop trying is the moment you become unstoppable. The monster inside you is no longer dormant. It is awake, aware, and entirely focused on protecting the life you have built without them. Only the strong resist the temptation to respond to every message, to engage with every attempt at manipulation, to fall back into patterns that once kept you small. You resist because you know that the broken mirror cannot be repaired, that some damage is permanent, that some people lose their place in your life and never get it back. This is not cruelty. This is authenticity. Living in alignment with your values, protecting your energy, choosing yourself every single time. The truth hurts for them, but it heals for you. Because every day you spend unbothered by their attempts to regain relevance is a day you confirm that you made the right choice. Your pain will become strength, and that strength manifests as indifference, the ultimate form of power over people who once had too much control. The broken mirror reflects the truth they cannot change. You are gone, and you are never coming back. Resistance, courage, freedom, and power are no longer concepts. They are your daily reality, the foundation of a life where your worth is not negotiable and your peace is not for sale. The broken mirror is the moment they realize that some doors, once closed, stay closed, and some people once gone, are gone forever. This is the transformation complete, the monster fully awake and the world witnessing what happens when you finally choose yourself. Authenticity is your armor, indifference is your weapon, and freedom is your reward for having the courage to walk away from people who never deserved you in the first place. The broken mirror does not reflect who you were. It reflects who they are, and that reflection will haunt them long after you have stopped thinking about them. This is the power of choosing yourself, and it belongs entirely to you. They start reaching out, not with honesty but with manipulation disguised as concern, with messages that test the waters, with casual questions that probe for openings. The attempts are subtle at first. A like on an old photo, a comment on something you posted, a question about how you have been, all designed to gauge whether you still care. But you see through the facade, you recognize the monster of regret operating behind their words. The discomfort of realizing that losing you was not the victory they thought it would be. The conspiracy of regret is not about them wanting you back. It is about them wanting to feel better about themselves, to ease the guilt, to confirm that they still have some influence. They do not miss you. They miss what you gave them. The attention, the support, the energy you poured into a connection that was always one-sided. Have you ever noticed how people who ignored you for months suddenly remember you exist the moment you stop caring? That is not love. That is ego. That is control. That is the uncomfortable realization that they lost something they took for granted. You feel the shift in their energy, the desperation masked as casualness, the regret wrapped in humor or nostalgia, the attempts to pull you back into a dynamic that no longer serves you. But you do not respond with anger or bitterness. You respond with indifference, with polite distance, with the kind of coldness that comes not from hate, but from freedom. Stop seeking approval is no longer something you have to remind yourself. It is your default state, a natural consequence of knowing your worth and protecting your peace. Do you feel the power of not reacting? Of not giving them the satisfaction of knowing they still affect you? Of watching them try and fail to regain relevance in your life? Comment if you have ever experienced the moment when someone who hurt you tried to come back and found only silence. Not because you were playing games, but because you genuinely did not care. This is the conspiracy of regret, and it is their burden to carry, not yours, because you have moved on while they remain stuck in a past they cannot change. They will never fully understand you, and now you see that as a blessing, not a curse. Because understanding requires vulnerability, and vulnerability requires trust. And trust is something they destroyed. The conspiracy of regret reveals itself in their half-hearted apologies, in their attempts to rewrite history, in their insistence that things were not as bad as you remember. But you know the truth. You carry the scars. You lived the experience. And no amount of gaslighting will make you forget what you had to endure to get here. Your pain will become strength in this moment, because every attempt they make to minimize your experience only confirms that walking away was the right decision. You incommode the system by refusing to give them the closure they think they deserve, by refusing to engage in conversations that serve their healing at the expense of yours. The conspiracy of regret is their problem, not yours, and you owe them nothing. Not your time, not your energy, not your forgiveness, not your presence. Only the strong resist the temptation to respond, to explain, to give them one more chance to fall back into patterns that once kept you trapped. You resist because you know that regret is not the same as change, that apologies without action are meaningless, that people who truly valued you would not have treated you the way they did. The transformation is complete now, and you are no longer the person who accepts less than they deserve, who makes excuses for bad behavior, who prioritizes others over themselves. Wake up to life. The conspiracy of regret is not your responsibility to fix, to soothe, to validate, because the discomfort they feel is the natural consequence of their choices. You were not born to please people who only value you after they lose you, who only apologize when they realize you are no longer available, who only change when they see that you have moved on. The authenticity you bring to this moment is what makes it powerful, because you are not pretending to be over it. You genuinely are, and that truth is undeniable. Resistance, courage, and power are no longer things you aspire to. They are things you embody, and the conspiracy of regret cannot penetrate the walls you have built around your peace. The truth hurts for them, but it heals for you, because it confirms that you made the right choice, that you protected yourself, that you chose your own well-being over their comfort. This is where the monster inside you becomes a protector, a guardian of your boundaries, a force that keeps you safe from people who would drain you if given the chance. Freedom is the reward for resisting the conspiracy of regret, for refusing to go back, for choosing yourself every single time they try to pull you into their chaos. The hidden truth is that their regret is not about you. It is about them, about their inability to live with the consequences of their actions, about their discomfort with being held accountable. You are not cruel for refusing to make them feel better. You are wise, you are strong, you are protecting the life you fought so hard to build. Authenticity is your shield, indifference is your weapon, and freedom is your reality. And the conspiracy of regret cannot touch you because you have evolved beyond their reach. The transformation is undeniable. The monster is awake, and the world is witnessing what happens when you finally choose yourself over people who never chose you. This is the conspiracy of regret, and it is their prison, not yours, because you are free, unburdened, and unstoppable. Your inner strength is the foundation of everything you have built, and the conspiracy of regret cannot shake that foundation because it is rooted in truth, in self-love, in the refusal to accept anything less. Only the strong resist, and you are proof that resistance is not just possible, it is powerful, it is liberating. It is the key to a life where your peace is protected and your worth is never questioned. This is the conspiracy of regret, and you owe them nothing but your absence. Your ascension becomes their personal torture, not because you are doing anything to them, but because your existence forces them to confront everything they are not. Every post you make, every achievement you share, every smile that shows genuine happiness becomes a mirror reflecting their stagnation, their excuses, their failures. The weight of comparison is not something you place on them. It is something they cannot escape. A constant reminder that change was always possible and they chose not to change. They watch you from a distance, scrolling through your life like it is a movie they were never cast in, and with each scene, the discomfort grows. You are thriving in ways they said you could not, succeeding in areas they claimed you would fail, becoming someone they insisted you were incapable of being. The hidden truth is that your growth is not an attack on them. It is simply proof that their limitations were never yours, that their fears were never facts, that their doubts were projections of their own insecurity. Have you ever felt the shift when someone who once dismissed you suddenly becomes obsessed with watching your every move, dissecting your success, trying to find flaws to ease their discomfort? That obsession is not admiration. It is psychological warfare they are waging with themselves, using you as the benchmark for everything they are not doing. The weight of comparison crushes them because it reveals that the life they settled for was a choice, not an inevitability. And facing that truth is unbearable for people who refuse accountability. You do not compete with them because you are competing with yourself, pushing past your own limits, discovering your own capacities, building a life that reflects your values and your vision. But to them, your progress feels personal, feels like a judgment, feels like evidence that they made the wrong choices, stayed in the wrong places, settled for the wrong things. Your pain will become strength, and every time they see that strength, it reminds them of the pain they avoided but never healed from. The power of this phase is realizing that their discomfort is not your responsibility, that their comparison is their prison, that their inability to be happy for you reveals more about them than it ever will about you. You stop seeking approval from people who are measuring your success against their own failures, and you start celebrating your wins with people who understand that your growth does not diminish theirs. This is where you learn that only the strong resist the urge to shrink back down to make others comfortable. Do you feel the freedom that comes from no longer caring if your success makes them uncomfortable? From no longer dimming your light to protect their ego? From no longer apologizing for becoming everything you were meant to be? Comment if you have ever experienced the strange phenomenon of people treating your success like a personal attack, as if your growth somehow erases their potential. This is the weight of comparison, and it is theirs to carry, not yours to manage. They will never fully understand you, and that is fine, because understanding would require them to confront their own choices, their own stagnation, their own refusal to grow. The weight of comparison they feel is the natural consequence of watching someone they underestimated become someone they can never catch up to. You are not cruel for moving forward. You are simply living your life, and the fact that your life makes them uncomfortable is their issue, not yours. You incommode the system by existing outside their expectations, by thriving in spite of their doubt, by proving that the narrative they created about you was fiction. The transformation is complete now, and the person you have become is so far removed from the person they remember that comparison becomes futile. They are stuck comparing themselves to a moving target, and every time they think they are catching up, you have already evolved past that point. Wake up to life. The weight of comparison is not about competition. It is about clarity, seeing yourself clearly and choosing growth regardless of who is watching or judging. You are not born to please people who are using your success as a weapon against themselves, who are blaming you for their discomfort instead of taking responsibility for their choices. The authenticity you bring to this moment is what makes it powerful, because you are not pretending, not exaggerating, not performing. You are simply being the best version of yourself. Resistance, courage, and power are no longer aspirations. They are your daily reality, and the weight of comparison cannot touch you, because you are not in the race they think you are in. The truth hurts for them, but it liberates you, because it confirms that the distance you created was necessary, that the growth you pursued was worth it, that the life you are building is exactly what you deserve. This is where the monster inside you becomes a standard, a benchmark they will never reach. Freedom is the reward for refusing to shrink, for refusing to dim your light, for refusing to apologize for your success. And the weight of comparison they carry is simply the price they pay for underestimating you. The hidden truth is that every achievement you earn is not about them. It is about you proving to yourself that you are always capable, always worthy, always destined for more than they could imagine. This is the weight of comparison, and it is their burden, not yours. Authenticity is your foundation, inner strength is your compass, and power is your birthright. And the weight of comparison cannot shake any of that because it is rooted in truth, in work, in the refusal to accept anything less. The transformation continues, the monster strengthens, and the world begins to see what they tried to hide, that you were always the one who would rise, who would thrive, who would prove that their limitations were never yours. Your inner strength is the foundation of everything you have built, and the weight of comparison they feel is simply confirmation that you made the right choice to walk away, to invest in yourself, to choose growth over comfort. Only the strong resist the urge to look back, and you are proof that resistance is powerful, is liberating, is the key to a life where your success is celebrated, not weaponized. This is the weight of comparison, and you owe them nothing but your continued growth. You would not be here, this strong, this focused, this unstoppable, if they had not broken you first. Every rejection was a lesson. Every betrayal was fuel. Every dismissal was proof that you needed to evolve beyond their expectations. The monster they see now is not something you became in spite of them. It is something you became because of them, forged in the fire of their cruelty, sharpened by their doubt, tempered by their abandonment. They planted the seeds of your destruction and watched as you transformed that poison into power. You took every insult, every humiliation, every moment they made you feel small, and you weaponized it, turned it into motivation, used it as evidence that you were capable of more than they could imagine. Your pain will become strength, and that strength is now undeniable, visible, impossible to ignore. The irony is brutal. They wanted you weak, dependent, controllable, but their cruelty created the opposite, a version of you that is independent, resilient, unstoppable. Have you ever looked back and realized that the worst thing they did to you was actually the best thing that could have happened? That realization is the moment you understand that the monster is not something to fear. It is something to embrace, to celebrate, to unleash. Every time they see you now, they see the consequences of their actions, the reminder that they could have had you on their side but chose to push you away. The transformation is complete, and the person standing here is not the one they remember. It is someone entirely new, built from the ruins of what they destroyed. Only the strong resist the urge to collapse under pressure, And you did not just resist. You thrived, you grew, you became. Do you feel the power of knowing that their worst intentions created your best version? Comment if you have ever thanked your enemies for making you stronger, for forcing you to evolve, for pushing you to become someone they will never be able to touch again. This is the monster they created, and it is yours to control, yours to direct, yours to use as a shield against anyone who tries to diminish you again. They will never fully understand you, because understanding would require them to acknowledge their role in your creation, to admit that their cruelty backfired, that their attempts to break you only made you unbreakable. The monster is not rage or revenge. It is discipline, focus, authenticity, the refusal to ever be that vulnerable again, the commitment to protect yourself at all costs. This is the hidden truth. The person who hurt you the most gave you the greatest gift, the motivation to never be weak again. Wake up to life. The monster is not your enemy. It is your protector, your strength, your evidence that you survived what was meant to destroy you. You were not born to please people who wanted you broken. And the fact that you are standing here, thriving, unstoppable, is the ultimate proof that they failed. The monster they created is the version of you that will never let anyone hurt you like that again. Resistance, courage, freedom, and power are no longer things you chase. They are things you embody, and the monster is the manifestation of all those qualities. The truth hurts for them, but it heals for you, because it confirms that you were always capable, always worthy, always stronger than they gave you credit for. This is the monster they created, and it is magnificent. Authenticity is your foundation, inner strength is your armor, and the monster is your weapon. And together they create a version of you that is untouchable, unshakable, unstoppable. You incommode the system by existing as living proof that pain can be transformed, that betrayal can be fuel, that the worst moments of your life can become the foundation of your greatest achievements. The monster they created is the best thing that ever happened to you. Only the strong resist the urge to stay bitter, to stay angry, to stay stuck in the past, and instead you chose to take everything they did to you and turn it into something beautiful, something powerful, something undeniable. The transformation is complete, the monster is awake, and the world is witnessing what happens when you refuse to let cruelty define you, and instead let it refine you. This is the monster they created, and it belongs entirely to you. The most devastating revenge is not the confrontation they expect, not the anger they are prepared to defend against, not the words they have rehearsed responses for. The most devastating revenge is your silence, your indifference, your complete and total absence from their life, as if they never existed, as if they never mattered, as if they were never important enough to occupy space in your thoughts. This silence is louder than any scream, more final than any goodbye, more powerful than any argument could ever be. They wait for you to react, to lash out, to give them the satisfaction of knowing they still have an impact on you. But instead, they get nothing. No calls, no messages, no social media interactions, no mutual friends asking about them, no signs that you even remember they exist. This revenge of silence is not cruelty, it is freedom, the ultimate expression of power, the clearest statement that you have moved on so completely that they no longer register in your reality. Have you ever watched someone try desperately to get your attention after they lost it, only to realize that your lack of response is more painful to them than anything you could have said? That is the power of silence, the truth they cannot escape. They are irrelevant now, and no amount of reaching out will change that. They will never fully understand you, and the silence confirms that understanding is no longer necessary because connection no longer exists. The hidden truth is that silence is not passive. It is active protection, a boundary so strong that it does not need to be defended because it simply exists. Stop seeking approval becomes your lived reality, and the silence is proof that their approval, their attention, their existence in your life is no longer something you need or want. This is the revenge of silence, and it is the most powerful statement you could ever make without saying a single word. Do you feel the freedom that comes from not caring what they think? Not wondering if they noticed your absence, not hoping they feel regret? Comment if you have ever experienced the moment when you realize that the best revenge is simply not caring anymore. When silence became your superpower. When indifference became your peace. This is the revenge of silence, and it belongs entirely to you. A gift you give yourself by refusing to engage with people who do not deserve your energy. Your pain will become strength, and that strength manifests as the ability to walk away without looking back, to close doors without explanation, to move forward without closure. The revenge of silence is not about making them suffer. It is about protecting your peace, preserving your energy, choosing yourself every single time. You incommode the system by refusing to play the games they expect, by refusing to give them the reaction they crave, by refusing to let them occupy space in your mind or your life. Wake up to life. The revenge of silence is the moment you realize that some people do not deserve your words, your time, your energy, your presence, and that walking away without explanation is not weakness, but wisdom. You are not born to please people who only value you when you are available to them, who only remember you when they need something, who only apologize when they realize you are gone. The silence is your answer, and it is final, absolute, unchangeable. Only the strong resist the urge to respond, to explain, to defend, to give them one last piece of your attention, and instead you choose silence, indifference, complete and total detachment. The transformation is complete, the monster is at peace, and the world is witnessing what happens when you choose yourself so completely that everyone else becomes background noise. This is the revenge of silence, and it is the most powerful form of closure you could ever give yourself. Resistance, courage, authenticity, and power are no longer aspirations. They are your daily reality. And the revenge of silence is the manifestation of all those qualities. The truth hurts for them, but it heals for you. Because it confirms that you made the right choice, that you protected yourself, that you chose peace over chaos, freedom over familiarity, yourself over everyone who never chose you. This is where the monster becomes a guardian, protecting the life you built from anyone who would try to disrupt it. Authenticity is your foundation. Inner strength is your compass, and the revenge of silence is your weapon. And together they create a version of you that is untouchable, unshakable, unstoppable. The silence is not empty. It is full of peace, full of clarity, full of the knowledge that you are finally free from people who never deserved access to you in the first place. This is the revenge of silence, and it is the ultimate victory. Freedom is the reward for choosing silence over confrontation, indifference over anger, peace over chaos. And the revenge of silence is the proof that you have evolved beyond the need for validation, recognition, or closure from people who never gave you what you deserved. The hidden truth is that the silence speaks volumes, and the message is clear. You are gone, you are free, you are unstoppable, and they are nothing but a memory you no longer visit. Your inner strength is the foundation of everything you have built, and the revenge of silence is the ultimate expression of that strength. The clearest statement that you have chosen yourself, protected yourself, freed yourself from the chains of needing to be understood, validated, or acknowledged by people who never saw your worth. Only the strong resist, and you are proof that silence is not weakness. It is the ultimate power, the final word, the closing chapter, the end of a story that no longer serves you. This is the revenge of silence, and it is yours to wield, yours to protect, yours to celebrate, because it represents everything you fought for: freedom, authenticity, power, and the unshakable knowledge that you are enough, you always were enough, and you will always be enough, regardless of who stays, who leaves, who remembers, or who forgets. The silence is your peace, and it is the most powerful revenge of all.